what a past couple days I've had in the New York City metro area. A lot of pinball. I got to admit, I walked away this evening. It's been a good run here, though. I've got my Schweppes lemon lime sparkling water. I've got New York City behind me in the window. It's Coast to Coast Pinball, episode 61. Let's go. Welcome to Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers. This is episode 61. It's February 8th, 2014. It's a Saturday night, and I'm in my hotel in New York City because I'm burnt out. I've had a busy few days, and I've played a lot of pinball. I took some notes. I played some games I haven't gotten to spend a lot of time on before. There's more coming. I'm excited because tomorrow's I don't actually have to work tomorrow. Today's Saturday, yet I was working. But tomorrow's Sunday, and I'm not working. So I'm going to get to play some more pinball at a leisurely pace. And I'm very excited. I hope everyone's doing well out there. It is bitterly cold here on the East Coast. I left San Diego Thursday morning really early. And when I took off, it was 65 degrees early in the morning in San Diego. And it was beautiful out. The sun was coming up. It has since rained there, I understand. But it was going to be a nice day. I landed at JFK, and it was the quickest flight across this country I've ever taken because apparently we had a tailwind which propelled us with the jet stream across the country in way under 5 hours. Like, the pilot was even saying it was one of the fastest trips he'd made. So, get to New York in the late afternoon with the time change. Mid-afternoon, I guess. And it's cold, man. There's a ton of snow on the ground. It's all frozen solid. It reminds me what living on the East Coast. I lived on the East Coast for 7 years, and I don't miss this part of it. Usually with my job, we don't travel much till the weather gets better, but there's some things happening this year that needed me out on the road now. I don't mind. I like to get out, see the world, get some work done, play some pinball in my off time. And here we are in my top floor Fairfield King room, which is pretty small because we're in New York City, but it's a new hotel on the Lower East Side down near Chinatown, and I'm not far at all from the 2-Bits Retro Arcade, which we'll get to in a little bit. So here's what I did. I got here Thursday, and I got into the city. I went right into Manhattan from JFK, and I went to see one of my accounts right off the bat. Kind of got there around 5 o'clock or so, and I wanted to go see him, get a little bit of work done, even though I flew all day. Really just meet and greet stuff. And then I got out of there, and I was staying up in Times Square area, but before I went to my hotel, I parked in the parking garage and walked a half a mile in the bitter cold to Modern Pinball New York City, which I think I did a whole episode on a ways back. Go look for it if you can't find it. And so this is my second, trip to go to Modern Pinball, and it's really great. And I can't underscore how cool it is to be in, New York City, the greatest city on earth, as they say, with all these lights and all these things happening, and there's so much going on, and the kind of the grandioseness of New York, and have this awesome, room where you walk in, and there's 25 or 30 of some of the finest pinball machines ever built, all there in great shape, ready for you to play. Just a quick recap of how they're doing it. It's a per hour basis. So when you go into Modern Pinball, there's no quarters necessary. I think we mentioned that this is a podcast of commentary, and I'm a man out of quarters. If we didn't, we have now. Don't need quarters at Modern Pinball New York City. You pay by the hour. 1 hour currently is $12. 3 hours is $19, and you can buy an all-day pass for $29. And that's higher than it was when they opened, but this is New York City, and everything's sort of expensive. And I'm tempted tomorrow on Sunday to go up early and get the all-day pass and just kind of go in and out as I peruse around the city and get some shopping done and just play all day long. I was tired Thursday night, so I decided to buy 1 hour and really try and cram a lot into 1 hour. I was going to buy 3, but there was also University of Arizona basketball game on TV that night that I wanted to get back to my room and watch. So I bought 1 hour, and I crammed a bunch into it. One of the issues I had last time I went to Modern Pinball, it was the leveling of the games. When I was there, it was, I think, 2 weeks after they'd opened, and a lot of the games, including games I really, really wanted to play, like, Cactus Canyon, were not level, and the ball was just all over the place. So they've fixed that. I only maybe one time on one game thought that the ball was not falling, straight with gravity, and that it was on an unlevel surface. So they've gotten that taken care of. They've been holding tournaments. They've kind of tightened up the room a little bit. They've got screens up on the walls. It just feels a little bit more together. It's really a fine job. And of course, this is owned by Steve Epstein and some partners. And Steve, of course, had the Broadway arcade made famous by the Special When Lit documentary. So this is also serving as the IFPA World Headquarters, which is kind of cool. Neat, which puts more focus on it. And this is New York City, so it's great to have a presence for our hobby and our passion and our pastime in New York City. And not that there wasn't. We have reciprocal skateboards, which I hope to be stopping by on this trip. We have the 2-Bits Retro Arcade. We have a lot of stuff going on in Brooklyn, but there's nothing like having a top-level showcase of pinball in Manhattan, up, in Midtown. It's great. It's really fantastic. It's in a nice area, too, with lots of good food and easy to get to. I walked and I took a cab back just because it was so cold. But you can't miss this place. Current game list was a little bit different from when I was there last time. They still had the trio at the front door of Wizard of Oz, Star Trek, and Metallica. Games that were different, and I will talk about a couple of these in a second. But I also noticed they had a Transformers Pro, which I don't recall being there. Junkyard was gone. That's one thing I noticed was not there. And then the two that I really wanted to focus on, they added a World Cup Soccer, which I don't believe was there before. But there was a beautiful example of Bonsai Run on the left side of Modern Pinball, which was really cool because I have not spent much time at all with Bonsai Run. So that was exciting to see that. And then also, delightfully, I happened upon a very well-kept and very well-maintained 1982 Gottlieb Haunted House, which is one of my favorite games. And it's a game that I have major regrets on. On a side note, I've been listening and catching up with all the podcasts this trip because I've been doing some driving, and the Game Room Junkies just released an episode not too long back, and it took me a while to get through it. I was sort of digesting it in pieces, and at the end, Patrick and Preston go through instead of their recap of the previous year and everything, they kind of did their regrets, things that they regretted. And obviously sometimes when you think about regrets in this sort of hobby, you think of the machines that got away, that one that you missed, the one you called just a few minutes late on, or you didn't offer the right amount or whatever. Well, about 5 years ago, I was still living in Maryland, and I was thinking about pinball at the time, and I didn't own a machine, and I had just moved into a house, a big new house. I built a house, and I moved into this big house, and I thought I should put a pinball machine in here. I had my own office because I worked from home at the time before I worked for Taylor. I thought I should put a pinball machine in here because I always loved pinball. And I thought, what would be the cool game to put in there? And Haunted House came to mind. And I searched, and lo and behold, within 1 hour away from me in College Park, Maryland, there was a haunted house for sale on Craigslist for $1,100. And that seemed high to me. This was 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And that seemed high for an old game like that. So I emailed the guy, and I offered him $800. And he replied, and he said, I'll do it for $950. I'll split the difference. And me, being stupid, said no, and just didn't do it. And you know what I bought instead? I'll tell you what I bought instead of that $950 haunted house. Clear as day, I can remember this. I bought a jet ski. Don't buy a jet ski. That's all I can tell you. If you're thinking about buying a jet ski, don't buy a jet ski. Let your friends buy jet skis. Let your neighbors buy jet skis. I'll repeat this one more time. Unless you're very, very wealthy and just don't care, don't buy a jet ski. Especially when you could have used a fraction of that money that you put down on the jet ski and bought Haunted House for $950 in fantastic shape. So I still regret that. I kind of wish I had done that. In fact, Coast to Coast Pinball might have come around sooner and earlier had I just bought that machine, because I didn't buy a machine for probably another 2 years after that. I just went out looking for machines in bars and in bowling alleys after that, and that was sort of all I had for a little while there. Then I moved to California, and all heck broke loose. Heck, PG-rated show here, folks. So anyway, get to Modern Pinball, and they have a beautiful haunted house. So I just immediately jump on and start playing. And I forgot how just great the music is to that game. It's a game without any voice calls, no speech. And I know there's been like a upgrade to put like a retro. I don't know if it's a board set or if it's just a ROM that has some custom speech for it. I don't know about any of that. But the original game, awesome, creepy, lo-fi music. 1982. I mean, so this is 82. Gottlieb game. It's a wide body. It has 3 play fields. It has a lower level, which is slanted away from you, with flippers that flip the ball back towards you, which is just so cool. It has drop targets everywhere. It has 8 flippers on this game. It has 4 on the main play field, 2 in the cellar in the lower play field, and then 2 up in the attic on the back right upper play field, which are cool. But they flip sort of away from each other instead of like in towards each other. It's really takes a second to get used to it. Actually has 2 sets of flipper buttons. So when you flip your main flipper buttons, you're not actually flipping all 8 flippers at once. You're just flipping the main 4. There's another set of flipper buttons right behind those first buttons to handle the 2 lower flipper buttons and the 2 upper flipper buttons. Obviously the theme's awesome. It's haunted house. It's a haunted house themed pinball machine. How cool is that? The artwork is just 5-star, top shelf, A+. That back glass is just legendary. It's so fantastic. I want that back glass backlit and hung on a wall in my office. I really do. Better yet, I want the darn machine. Love it. It has one of the coolest shots in all of pinball to me. And this is probably going to... Some of you are going to hear me say this and be like, oh, Nate's had too much of his seltzer water tonight. But this is one of the most underrated and most awesome shots, I think, in all of pinball, and it's the secret passage shot. It's a stand-up target, just a normal little, circular stand-up target. When you hit the target, it gives way, the ball goes behind it, and drops into the lower cellar play field. That's so cool. You can't help but be excited about that. I don't really know all the rules. I know that if you hit some of the targets down in order, you can light extra ball. Yeah. I just love playing the game. And I played it over and over and over, and I really like it. And I want one. And I know that the maintenance on these things is a bear, and it's really tough, and I know, I get it. But I still want one. So that was really exciting that they have a haunted house there. And that alone is making me want to go back to Modern Pinball tomorrow on Sunday when I have a bunch of time off. So that's very cool. Also, Banzai Run. So whereas Haunted House is a pretty legendary game where they built, well over 6,000 of those games. It was a high production, game. Not super high for 1982, but by today's standards, a very high production game. Banzai Run, 1988, Pat Lawler's first real pinball machine, not a high production game. Pat Lawler was the new kid on the block at Williams, and I think if you've listened to what Pat has said about his early days at Williams, it was sort of like sharks in the water, and he was the new guy, and he had to prove himself. And they only built, 1,750 Banzai Runs, and that's a shame because that game is amazing. Okay, yes, there is a whole playfield in the back glass to this game. Obviously, that's the first thing you have to say is it had a vertical playfield in the back glass. Yeah, I get it. But just without that, even it's a great layout. It's interesting, it's different, it's unique. It has some fun shots, some really good shots. It's difficult. It's not an easy game by any means. The sound is not the greatest. It's that late 80s Williams digitized sound thing. Think Whirlwind, Funhouse, all those Lawler games kind of had sort of a vibe in that time period. But it's really a good game. And I did get up into the vertical playfield, and, it's okay. It's not as gimmicky as before I'd ever played it. I just imagine that as being horrible. It's not horrible, but it's not great either. It's somewhere, I think it lies somewhere in between. This game was outfitted with a lot of LEDs, so it was really bright, and it popped a lot. I really like that Williams era game from the 80s with LEDs in them. It sort of gives them this new life that it actually puts the mid-2000s Sterns just to shame. There was a World Poker Tour right next to this Bonsai Run, and the World Poker Tour looked like just a piece of junk next to Bonsai Run. I mean, just absolute garbage. And it's a shame, because World Poker Tour is not a bad game, but we know what Stern was kind of doing visually and layout-wise at that time period. So, Modern Pinball, New York City, man, they have a CSI and they have a 24 right next to each other, which I always link those two games in my head together. They still have a really great Monster Bash that's there. They had a Bram Stoker's Dracula in probably the best shape I've ever seen one. That was new to the Modern Pinball since I was there last time. And there was some other good stuff. I played Cactus Canyon again. I actually really progressed a long way through that game. I like that game. And I think that it's kind of cool to say in forums like, oh yeah, Cactus Canyon's this like, sought after game that everybody wants because they didn't build very many, but it's not really that fun of a game. I say nonsense. I say it's actually a really fun game. The callouts are great. The gunfights are great where you're shooting the drop targets. I think that's so cool. So I don't agree. I think it's a fun game. And I know that the rule set was incomplete, but we had Cactus Canyon continued. And so there was hope there after all. If I'm rooting for a game to be remade after Medieval Madness by Planetary Pinball, I am rooting for Cactus Canyon. I mean, I know a lot of people want Attack from Mars, but Attack from Mars, as great as it is, and I'll talk about it in a minute, as great as it is, it's really just a fan layout game with some jumping Martians on it. I mean, let's be real clear here. There's nothing like all that crazy great about the design and aesthetic of Attack from Mars. The playfield from Attack from Mars is kind of ugly. It's a lot of gray. The spaceship's awesome. The callouts are awesome. The DMD animations are awesome. The way you progress through Attack from Mars and the feedback you get from that game is why that game is so great. So that's cool. That's good. Cactus Canyon sort of just has a lot of other stuff going on, which I think would be really fantastic if they could remake. So that's kind of my vote. But anyway, again, I said this last time, I'll say it again. If you're in the New York City area, and if you even sort of like pinball, go to Modern Pinball New York City. It was funny when I walked in. There was probably, so it was Thursday night, about 6:30, 8 o'clock maybe. There's probably 6 or 7 people playing. One couple was playing, and then maybe 5 guys. And then there were 3 women sitting in the back on the benches, not playing, just sitting there. And I guess they probably didn't pay an entrance fee just to sit there. But it was really funny listening to one guy who was racking up games on Dracula, kept saying to his girlfriend, "Oh, just one more game. We'll be there in just one second. One more game." So, Modern Pinball New York City, absolutely. Switching gears a little bit. I got to go back to the Silver Ball Museum on, my days are all screwed up, sorry guys, Friday. So Friday I had a long day of work in North Jersey, seeing accounts that are new to me, because I just took over North Jersey for my territory. So I had to go meet dealers for what I sell, Taylor Guitars, that I had not met before in North Jersey. So I had 3 stops to do there. Spent the whole day doing that. And then my good buddy Zach, who's also a pinball fanatic, he has South Jersey in his territory, and one of his dealers has a location in Asbury Park. So long story short, we sort of both meet right around that Asbury Park Red Bank line with our territories. And we had agreed before we even made our treks out here that we were going to try and meet up Friday night at the Silver Ball Museum. And that's what we did. So I got there early. I got there about 7:30. Zach got delayed. He was hanging out with one of his accounts and selling guitars, actually. So that was cool. But I just got the chance to walk around the Silver Ball Museum and just bask in 150 games. I mean, I think it's, top 3 collections in the country. It's got to be. Maybe the nicest collection of EMs in the country. I think that Pinball Hall of Fame has a lot of those games. I venture to say that the Silver Ball Museum's EMs are in better shape. That's what I believe. So, fantastic place. You're right on the boardwalk. It's cold and the ocean's dark and it's nighttime, but you're still right on the boardwalk. It's awesome. So, I go in and there's 4 people in the whole place. There's the guy working the counter and there are 3 people 1, 2, 3 people playing pinball in the entire room. And half the night, these fools weren't two of the people weren't even playing pinball. It was a guy and his girlfriend, and they were playing air hockey. And it was like the loudest air hockey game known to man, because it's sort of a big empty pinball hall, 150 games, with hard floors, pinball machines everywhere, and they're playing air hockey, and the plink of that air hockey puck was driving me insane. But I digress. So as I always do when I go to the Silver Ball Museum, I start on some EMs. So I went and played some of the old single-player EMs. I went to go see Skylab that I thought they had, that I remembered, that I just bought, because I wanted to see what theirs looked like. And then I remembered they don't have Skylab. They have Space Lab, the ultra-rare, non-gambling version of Skylab, that only, I think, 30 of them were made. That's pretty cool. And it's in really nice shape. So I played that once just for the fun of it, but I played a bunch of the single-player EMs. Some I really like. Some, are okay. I want some of the late 70s Gottlieb solid-state games. I'm really falling for things like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I love that game. That one's a lot of fun. That game was based off of, obviously, the movie that came out in the late 70s. And I love science fiction and space as far as themes for games. So Close Encounter of the Third Kind kind of has that alien creeps me out a little bit. No offense to the alien, kind of creeps me out. It has a roto target, which I've always kind of had an affinity for. I think they're cool. And it has drop targets and has the big left kind of swooping shot to go through the gate and back up to the rollover targets. I don't know. I think it's really cool. What was it? Oh, Joker Poker. Love Joker Poker. I think Joker Poker is like one of my favorite games from that era of like early solid state, like Gottlieb System 1 games. That's just a fun game, and it's hard because you're trying to pick up these cards, and like the 10, you gotta hit the 10, which is an extreme left shot. It's like the 10 is where the creature is on Monster Bash. It's a really hard shot to hit from the the right flipper at a severe angle. So I don't know. I really had a good time playing that little bank that they have there of those early Gottlieb games. That was a lot of fun. Zach's wheelhouse, when he finally showed up, he loves one of his favorite games is Bally's Playboy Machine. He loves that game, and I've never been drawn to that game. But we decided to play. We were playing 2-player games on multiple games. We had to play basically to ourselves the whole night. And here's the deal: at Silver Ball Museum, $10 after 5 o'clock gets you the whole rest of the night, and they're open till 1 in the morning. So we paid our $10. We went and had pizza at this really cool pizza place across by the Stone Pony, and then came back over and just played a bunch of pinball. So we were doing the head-to-head 2-player, and we'd have 2 or 3 machines all in a row going, and be switching back and forth. So we did a run of where we were playing Playboy, Kiss, and Silver Ball Mania all in a row. I don't like Silver Ball Mania much at all. I just don't connect with that game. Kiss is obviously, I think, well documented as awesome looking and then just average to play. Playboy is actually pretty fun. Once I learned Playboy a little bit and saw Zach play it, and I just realized that it's all about trying to get up into the grotto, which I immediately ask is, now do I get the girls when I got to the grotto? Which Zach just laughed at me. No, I don't get the girls. So I actually enjoyed that, but he killed me on those games. He's really good at those, and that's just not my wheelhouse. Then we went over and played... What did we play? We played Medieval Madness, and the left flipper stopped holding up, and that was driving us nuts, so we couldn't play that. And it's funny, because Medieval Madness is sort of pulled separately from all the other DMD games. It's on, like, the window row, whereas, like, when you're walking by the boardwalk and down the bank of windows, you can see Medieval Madness meshed in between sort of, like... a row that has some early 80s EMs like Centaur and Medusa. I said EMs, I meant Solid State, excuse me. And then some like 70s EMs like Captain Fantastic and Wizard and that kind of run. And then you have Medieval Madness. There's like a multicade game with Pac-Man on it. And then there's some like really bad EMs like Beat Time or Beat It or whatever it is, which is basically a Beatles game, but they couldn't call it the Beatles. So it's kind of a weird bank of games that don't really go together, but we had fun. We were playing Captain Fantastic and Wizard sort of back and forth, and I actually was beating Zach on Captain Fantastic, another one of his favorites, until like every time we'd get to the 5th ball, because all the games there are set on 5 ball, he would beat me on the last ball, so that was frustrating. Fun game though. I'm down with Captain Fantastic. I like that. We finally did make our way over to the 90s in the DMD games, and we settled in for our little run of games on Attack from Mars, Indiana Jones, and Addams Family. So I had one of the best games I've ever had on Attack from Mars. On the first ball, I was at 4.2 billion. And I couldn't even hardly believe it. Like, I played so long that Zach had played a single ball on Indiana Jones, Addams Family, and gone over to Pinbot and played a game on Pinbot all the time while I was just saving cities left and right on Attack from Mars. It was set up fairly steep. Oh, we were playing Theater of Magic too. I'm sorry. Theater of Magic was also in that run. The game was set up fairly steep, and that game's pretty rough. Out of all the games in the entire Silver Ball Museum, their Attack from Mars is probably their roughest condition game. And I overheard one of the guys who was like a tech there working, and he was talking about how the owner likes to go and buy games that he already owns, but just buy better versions of them. And he was telling a story about how he got Guns N' Roses. Somebody donated Guns N' Roses, and then they sold the one they had because it was in sort of rough shape. And Attack from Mars is one they could definitely use an upgrade on, because the playfield's probably the weakest one, and there's some cracked plastics and stuff. So that's unfortunate to see that game in such rough shape, but it plays really good. And I just had it timed right. I was, dead catching a lot. It was good. I really had my mind right to play pinball last night. So I beat Zach a bunch on Attack from Mars. He beat me a bunch on Theater of Magic and Indiana Jones. And I realized I was playing, and this is wide body Williams Indiana Jones, not narrow body Stern Indiana Jones. As I played that game, I realized I have no idea what to do on Indiana Jones. No clue. Not even the foggiest idea. And I'm staring at this game, and the letters ENT are in front of drop targets, and I just don't know why. And I'm looking at it, and then I'd have to go back and play another one of the games we were playing. I kept looking at ENT, and I'm like, why is it ENT? I don't get this. And in my head, I'm like every temple, or I just couldn't figure it out until I realized that there's other targets that all spell adventure, and I felt stupid. So, but yeah, Indiana Jones is a game that I don't know well. It's busy. There's a lot going on. I feel like there's nowhere to hit the ball, and the ramps on the right are really steep, and these flippers weren't totally strong. So it was all in all a frustrating game for me. But Zach did pretty good. So what do I know? The Theater Magic was great. That one's I've documented before. Always set up to play just scorchingly fast. I think they're trying to keep that game in good shape. And Addams Family, it's okay. Their Addams Family's all right. The mini flipper was not flipping well, so that was unfortunate. But I did get some multi-balls going on that and racked up pretty good scores in Addams Family. So we had a good time. We sort of ended the night. Zach loved Whitewater. Last time we were been there, he'd never played a Whitewater. And about 6 months ago when we were at Silver Museum, he just sort of fell in love with that. And he brings it up all the time. He goes, man, that rafting game. Because Zach loves pinball, and he really knows 70s, 80s. He doesn't know all the DMD games quite as well. So Whitewater was one that he just never really become familiar with. So we sat down and we stood there and played a bunch of Whitewater, and I think our B game with Whitewater was The Sopranos, which I think 4 or 5 times I just stepped away from and said, this is not fun. I just don't enjoy Sopranos. And I don't mind the theme. I think Sopranos theme is actually a great theme. I don't mind the physical layout of the shots, I guess. But man, the artwork and the way they designed the visuals of that game are just so bad. That era Stern is just, it's sort of an atrocity, really. Can't stand that. So anyway, and then we topped the night off. We ended up on Wizard of Oz, which is the first game you see when you walk into the Silver Ball Museum. So we played that a bunch. it's what I said it is. It's beautiful. I've said this over and over. They have the code at the latest spot. I'm starting to figure that game out a little bit more. I'm progressing through things. It helps to watch other people play that game and really study the display and see what it's telling you to do. I think that's sort of the downfall of these displays is they can use the display to kind of instruct you a lot of stuff, but if you're playing the game by yourself, you may not catch any of that. So I figured some stuff out and kind of, I think I scored up in the high hundreds finally. No, I'm just kidding. But, I did score in the, tens and tens of thousands, which is good on that game, and they're ridiculous low scoring stuff. So Silver Ball Museum, awesome. If you're anywhere, even from Philly, that wouldn't be that bad of a drive. But anywhere in the New York area, you're about an hour from the Silver Ball Museum. Obviously, if you're in Jersey, you probably already know of it. So, very cool. Very, very fun. Last night after Silver Ball, I stayed near the Jersey Shore, a little bit inland, and I had a meeting this morning in a town called Red Bank. And in Red Bank, there is a place called Yestercade's Arcade, which I reviewed episodes and episodes ago. And I really wanted to go there, but I had to get back north, so I couldn't, and I'm just bummed. So next trip out, we'll go back to Yestercade's and see what's going on there. Got back into the city this afternoon, checked into my hotel. Boy, is it cold here. Staying near Chinatown, and they're actually doing the Chinese New Year parade stuff here, and I don't know if it's still Chinese New Year. Is that still happening right now? I think we're close. If it's not over, it's over soon. But they were literally doing the big dragon head, down the street with the big train of people behind it, which I'd seen on TV when I was a kid, but I'd never seen it in person. And I drove through it today to get to my hotel, so it was pretty cool. In fact, then I had to park in a lot that was kind of back over through it and got to walk by some of it. And it's neat stuff. It's cool that those traditions have held on. Checked into my hotel and needed to go find food. So as I started going to find food, I didn't really have my bearings straight on the city. And I did a little Googling to see where I was. And man, I was only half a mile away from the 2-Bits Retro Arcade here in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. So I just decided to go eat next to that at this little sandwich shop. And then I went and played some pinball. I was really tired when I got there, I will freely admit. So I went in, looked like the game lineup was the same as last time I was here, which I believe was in November. When you walk into 2-Bits, it's sort of like a long shotgun style. It's a bar. It's a barcade. And in the front, they had a Funhouse, a Simpsons, and a Metallica Master of Puppets. Then there's a long row of arcade games, all retro arcade. I know there's Frogger and Galaga and Punch-Out and stuff like that. Stuff that I don't really find myself drawn to. And then in the back, they have another, 8 games, I want to say. Star Trek Pro, Roller Coaster Tycoon, World Cup Soccer, both of the Pin 2000 games, so Revenge from Mars and Episode 1, Sopranos, Twilight Zone, and I believe Theater of Magic is their entire lineup. So I went to the very back corner and decided I was going to put a few dollars into World Cup Soccer. And I know I talked about World Cup Soccer at length in an episode. I love that game. That's a game I will buy. If I see that game at a decent price, and in fact I offered on one not too far back, at a time when I really couldn't put another game anywhere, like right now, and I actually had back and forth emails with someone who knew the show, which instantly makes bargaining. I feel weird when somebody knows the show. It trips me out anytime I just email someone out in the world and they say, "Oh yeah, I listened to your podcast." And I'm like, "Oh wow, that's creepy and weird and cool and thank you, but still weird." And I'm trying to get the best deal I can on this pinball machine. And I don't want to come off like some cheap jerk, but hey man, I'm a cheap jerk, so I'm going to try and get the best price I can. And the guy just said, he goes, "Hey man, I totally know, and I'd love to hook you up, but my brother bought the game, and I have it now, and I have to get this much out of it." And it was just a little more than I wanted to spend, and it had some issue that I can't recall right now. Oh, it was missing the translate. That's what it was. And so I wasn't down for all of that. So anyway, I love the game, and I played it a bunch tonight. It's probably one of the best games out there for people, as far as one of the better late model games for people who don't know pinball to jump on and kind of get, because you got to shoot the ball past the goalie. I just think that's so cool. So I think it's fantastic. It's my favorite Papadou game, probably. In fact, it is my favorite Papadou game. Love it. Played that a bunch. The place was kind of packed. I was surprised because I was in there fairly early. The sun was still up when I went in, so it's probably around 5:30 or 6 maybe. And a lot of people in there. A lot of people playing arcade. There was a group of 3 people huddled around Star Trek while I was playing World Cup Soccer. And then they moved to Theater Magic, and I jumped on Star Trek and did not play very well on Star Trek. I wasn't hitting the warp ramp. I was draining down the middle a bunch. That Star Trek was not kind to me. I feel like that game that's a lot of fun. That's going to be a really good, I believe, tournament game in the future. I think that'll hold up for tournament play really well, just because it's kind of brutally fast, and I feel like the scoring's pretty balanced on that game. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that way to me. I still have an issue with the modes being so similar. Like, they varied up some of the shots, like what's lit for each mode, but it still feels like you're kind of just doing the same thing. I wish there was more of a, like, I wish one of the modes, like, maybe had a chaser shot where you're sort of chasing a certain shot around, or maybe 2 shots through all the possibilities, or more combo based, or you somehow brought the stand-up targets into play. I don't know. I just wish there was something else there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe something where you have to hit the warp ramp somehow for one of the modes. I don't know. I'd like to see that. But in any case, it's still a fun game. I still really like it. Played that a bunch. I was fading at this point, and I literally walked towards the front, fully intending to leave, but I still had some quarters. So I played Metallica, Master of Puppets. And that game is wearing pretty poorly on location. I gotta say, the playfield was dirty. And I like the limited edition and premium version of Metallica less and less. That hammer really bothers me. It's in the magnet situation with the snake's mouth and the magnet in front of it and the hammer. It makes the right flipper shots just not as fun, and they don't feel as good. And boy, this is probably news to everybody, and I know I've never mentioned this before, but they got to fix the code on that game. Like, come on. Really? Seriously? Anyway, so I played one game on Metallica, didn't do well, bowed out, left the 2-Bits Retro Arcade. Very cool place. If you want to go on, like, a date in New York City and, like, take a significant other out, it might be a great little place because you got some cool retro video games, you got enough pinball to satisfy you, and there's a bar there for you. So, and great food all around it, obviously, in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. So that is what I've been doing in Manhattan for the past few days, in New York in general. I mean, that's not really short. I've been playing a lot of pinball, so that's kind of my story, and I'm sticking to it. Quick note on the mailbag and emailing me, as my voice is starting to finally give out here. I've been delaying the show a little bit because that long illness thing I've had weeks ago is still hanging on just a little bit in regards to scratchy throat. So with the mailbag, I don't read every email on the air or on the podcast as it may be. I do try and respond to everything, even if it takes me a little bit. Some people that email me now I think they're emailing me sort of more as a conversation with me and less, maybe as stuff for the show. And that's really cool. I have no problem with that. In fact, it's one of the unexpected benefits of doing this show that I hadn't thought of, that I was going to meet so many cool people in this hobby that I would consider some of them friends at this point. I chat with some of them quite often. So don't be offended, anybody, if you email me something that you think, oh, that would be great for the show, and I don't read it, because sometimes I might just be considering it a conversation between us, or sometimes I don't think it's appropriate maybe to throw out in the public what we're talking about. And then I will tend to, if I see somebody new who's never emailed the show, which I have a lot of sitting in my inbox right now, I tend to grab their stuff and throw it out there, just because I want to give them a little shout out for emailing. So I have a couple of those tonight, and I wanted to answer these questions. This one was kind of funny. The subject of it is Metallica Pro or GNR, and then the body of the email is literally, well, Scott. So, Scott, I assume you're asking me if you should buy a Metallica Pro or a GNR, or what do I like better, Metallica Pro or GNR? Well, I just played Guns N' Roses yesterday at Silverball Museum. They have a nice one there. And it's a game I've always in the back of my head thought, I love the theme, obviously love the music, I grew up a big GNR fan, don't really love the game. But I had a good time playing the game. I slowed the game down. That's a game I think classically I've walked up to and I've just flipped the ball around and not really looked at what I was doing. And there's a lot of games out there that if you will take the time, cradle the ball, look at what's flashing, I mean, heavens forbid, read the rule card, figure out what you're trying to accomplish and get done, just a few shots can open up more scoring and more, opportunity in the game to make the game feel a lot better. And I did that. And I got, some of the other scoring things with Slash and with Matt Sorum and stuff all happening in Guns N' Roses. And I really like it. That being said, there's a certain aesthetic to that game I don't love. I don't know if it's the color scheme or the hand-drawn art it fits that theme really well, but I just don't personally really love it. And that's okay. That's all right. I certainly like it better than if somebody just photoshopped a bunch of GNR concert photos across that. There's just always been something about the game I don't really connect with. Metallica Pro is fast and furious and just feels so fresh to me. I kind of lean towards Metallica Pro. Now, if you're asking me, I can only buy one, which one do I buy? Then I immediately want to know, well, how much is the GNR? Because GNR is going to be an investment piece. That game's going to go up in value. It already has. I think that game actually is very overpriced, in my opinion, for my world right now. So if you got a good deal on a GNR, that might be the move, whereas you can still buy Metallica Pros new in box all day long right now. So thank you, Scott, for the brief but thought-provoking email. And then the other email I wanted to touch on was from Wes, who wrote that he was listening to another podcast that briefly touched on the subject of people who run pinball tournaments and whether or not they should play in their own pinball tournaments. So I think I know what he was listening to. Gene X Wong did an interview with Mark Steinman of Papa, and they talked briefly about Mark sort of, he views himself as sort of taking one for the team by not maybe getting in all the tournaments and sort of being the guy behind the scenes and whatnot. So, briefly, they sort of mentioned, those that run tournaments, should they play in their own tournaments? Well, I would say this. I think there is a way that because I have to put myself in the situation if I was running a tournament, which don't worry, I won't be running a tournament anytime soon. I might announce at a tournament or something, but I'm not going to be running in a tournament anytime soon. So, if I was running a tournament and I wanted to play in it, what I would do is, way ahead of time, I would, A, not use any of my own games, first off. Make that very clear. I'd have a third party bringing in games. And B, if I knew what the games were, which I would probably have to know since it's my tournament, I would make sure that everybody else knew what the games were way in advance so that I didn't have any sort of psychological advantage or strategic advantage being able to just, really, dissect the rules for those games and then the day before the tournament or the day of the tournament announce, oh yeah, and these are the games. So I guess if you had that and if you had some sort of thing in place for people to just separate you a little bit, like if you're running the tournament and you're running the scoring and you're running this, my gut instinct is you probably just shouldn't play. And I think that's, probably better for the tournaments. We don't want anybody to ever walk away from a pinball tournament because competitive pinball is still sort of in its infant stages. It's not very big. And I watched, competitive poker from the late 90s boom into what it became when the World Series got on TV, and it exploded it for, everywhere in the country. Pinball's very, very small. Pinball to me is like tournament poker was in like the early 90s when it was really sort of small scale. So you wouldn't ever want someone walking away from a tournament and feeling in any way that something happened that wasn't on the up and up, or something was shady, or that it's all just a bunch of friends who are, hoping that a bunch of rubes like me come in and pay money so that they can spread the money around amongst themselves and I have no chance, or it's against me. And I'm not saying anybody's done that. I'm not saying anybody would do that. I'm just saying you wouldn't ever want that to be perceived. So I think in general, if it is me, I would rather see those that are organizing and running the tournaments not playing in them. And I know there's some things where Bowen Cairns at Papa has not played in some of the tournaments that he's like run in, and I think he kind of understands that too. So I guess that's my thought on that. At the same time, I will say this. One of the nice things about this hobby being sort of niche and smaller is that we do all kind of have the ability to know a lot of the people involved and develop trust. And I think there's probably some situations where it's perfectly fine on a small scale for those running the tournament to just go ahead and be participants, because they might not have much of a tournament without that. So I guess it just depends on the situation. But Wes, I do appreciate the email. Wes also did order a navy blue midnight, whatever color t-shirt this is. He PayPal'd me $18 to send him a shirt to Michigan, where he is. And you can do that too. If you're interested in a t-shirt, go to the website, coast2coastpinball.com. There's photos of the current color t-shirts. I have this weird midnight color t-shirt with gray print on it. Then I have good old-fashioned black t-shirts with white print on them. They're both the same design. They're just different color shirt. They're $18, shipped anywhere in the United States. If you're outside the U.S. and you want a shirt, send me an email at coast2coastpinball at gmail.com. Coast, the number 2, Coast, pinball at gmail.com, and let me know where you are, and we'll figure out a price. I've shipped shirts to, I think, 10, 12 different countries around the world. So we've gone to Australia, Japan, Finland, Singapore, all sorts of different places. So if you want a shirt, that's cool. And if you send me a picture of yourself wearing the shirt somewhere cool, in a tournament, on top of buildings, falling from a plane, I know we're working on that one right now, you will get your photo posted for sure on the Facebook page. Even if it's just standing in front of your lowly Super Mario Brothers game, I will still post your picture in our t-shirt. So I really appreciate you listening. More from New York maybe later in the week, or maybe when I get back to San Diego. Got some things coming up, got some good things cooking, counting down to the Texas Pinball Festival, counting down to the Midwest Gaming Classic, counting down to maybe some other stuff. So thanks a lot for listening. We will talk to you again soon.